everybody, Beth Combs here with Bethy Combs and Canyon Community Yoga. Welcome to our first class of the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. Yay, 2021. So you might be joining me because you um, wanted to start doing yoga, and so you want to get started with this practice or understand what it's all about. So just briefly, I'll mention yoga is the practice of to yoke or to bring union between the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so we tie together asana or postures along with our breath to help us tune into our bodies, to gain wisdom from our bodies, and to also build strength, flexibility, and mental resilience. And of course, 2020 was already a great challenger of that resilience. And I think that most of us have actually built up more resilience through those challenges as they continue into 2021. And so I hope that you find this practice supportive and nourishing for you. Each week, we'll kind of do some similar poses and some different poses. I like to focus on different parts of the menstrual cycle. We have different energy levels at each of those stages. And so today's practice is great for beginners. And I try to make practices work for people who might not have a lot of props laying around. You'll see me using them, but that doesn't mean that you have to if you don't have anything like that at your home. Um, Especially if you're just getting started, you might not even have a yoga mat. So hopefully you've got at least a carpet or a towel that will help you hold your traction in some of the poses. But today's practice is focused more on the menstrual bleed, which is the time for resting and restoration. And so we're not going to be doing anything with a lot of energy or a lot of flow today. We're going to be doing a lot more slow, gentle movement. And so hopefully that'll work, especially for folks who maybe have never done yoga before. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Seated in a cross-legged pose on our mats. So I'm going to back up so that I can get onto my mat. And you'll see me, this is my yoga bolster. And I like to sit up on a bolster or a pillow or a blanket. You want to try to make sure that your knees are below your hips. So you can maybe notice I've got kind of a gentle sloping from where my hip bones are to my knees. And it's possible my microphone isn't working. Not sure if my microphone was working or not. Apologies if that was the case. I think I need to charge it. So again, my name is Beth Combs. I'll be doing a gentle practice this morning with you, focused on supporting you during your menstrual bleed. And our society has kind of told us we need to just push through this time of the month and to not let it cramp our style. The pad and tampon commercials are all about like playing hard and doing hard sports and not letting it slow us down or get us down. And over the last few years, I've really found that embracing that slower side is actually what my body needs. So we have both masculine and feminine energies within ourselves, each of ourselves, and so supporting each of those aspects of ourselves. The masculine energy tends to be more the beginning of the cycle after the bleed, through ovulation, and then the more feminine aspects, the luteal and the menstrual phase, are kind of the more feminine aspects, and doing a lot more reflection, doing a lot more focusing inward. And even if you don't bleed anymore, you can follow the moon cycles, and that actually is very similar. So full moon would be ovulation, and new moon would be when your bleed would happen. And so that's just a brief overview of the menstrual cycle and how you can still follow that wheel, if you will, even if you're not bleeding anymore. So we're sitting in our seated cross-legged pose. We're gonna sit up nice and tall. We're gonna really root the sits bones down, lengthen up through the spine and out the crown of the head. Try to make sure your chin is parallel with the mat, with the floor. And hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got the space heater going this morning. It's a little chilly in here. Feel free to close your eyes. You can place your hands in your lap. You can place your palms facing down on your thighs. Maybe you're feeling a little more receptive this morning. If that's the case, you can flip the palms to face the ceiling. We're going to take 3 rounds of breath where we inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth. And this is to help us release any tension. Maybe we didn't sleep well last night, or yesterday was really stressful. We might still be holding on to that. So we're going to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. So feel free to sigh, make as much noise as you need to, releasing any tension from the body. Inhale in, exhale out the mouth. And one more time, inhale in through the nose and exhale out the mouth. So if you're feeling particularly anxious, I encourage you to continue exhaling out the mouth. Otherwise, you can close the lips and begin breathing the traditional yogi way, in through the nose and out through the nose. Then we're going to do some side stretching. So we'll take the right hand next to the right hip. If you've got a bolster or a pillow, you can place your hand on the bolster. Bring the left arm up alongside the left ear, fold over to the right. You might have to move that hand down onto the floor because you don't want to crunch into your wrist. Maybe you can gaze up under your left arm. Just make sure your left sits bone is still connected to the earth. So if that means you have to come up a little bit higher, that's okay. You're still getting the benefits of the side stretch. We'll inhale, we'll come back to center, and then we'll switch sides. So the left hand goes down, right arm comes up alongside the right ear. Then we'll fold over to the left, gazing up under the right arm. We'll inhale, we'll come back to center, we'll fold over our bent legs. Hands outstretched, rocking from side to side, kind of warming up and loosening our low back and the hip area on the back side of the body. We'll inhale, we'll come back up to center. And then we're going to take a little, first off, we're going to change the cross of the legs. And then we're going to take a little twist here. So we're going to take the left hand to the right knee. We'll sit up nice and tall. Inhale, exhale, rotate to the right, any amount. With each inhale, see if you can sit a little bit taller, and each exhale, rotate a little bit more to the right, and eventually gaze over that right shoulder if your neck will allow it. And we'll inhale, we'll come back to center. We'll take the right hand to the left knee. We'll rotate to the opposite side. So again, inhale, sit up nice and tall. Exhale, rotate to the left. With each inhale, get a little taller. With each exhale, rotate a little bit more. Eventually gazing over that left shoulder. Then we'll inhale, we'll come back to center. We'll fold over our bent legs. And again, we'll rock from side to side. We'll inhale, come back up. And then we'll go ahead and we'll move our bolster or our pillow or our blanket out of the way. We're going to come on to our hands and knees on the mat. So for hands and knees, you want to make sure your wrist is lined up underneath your shoulders. Fingers are spread nice and wide. You're making an L shape with your index finger and your thumb. You're really pressing into the inside part of your palm versus the outside part of your palm. That helps to protect your wrist. And then your knees are lined up underneath your hips. Tops of the feet are pressing into the mat. We're going to do a few rounds of cat-cow here. So we're going to inhale and lift our forehead and our tailbone up. Exhale, pull the belly back towards the spine. Inhale to come up. Exhale to pull back. Inhale to come up. Exhale to pull back. And then follow your own breath at your own pace for the last two. And then we'll all meet back in our tabletop position. And we're going to just take some hip circles here. So we're going to drop our seat towards our heels and then bring it forward, kind of making an oval shape with our hips on the mat. And we'll switch directions. Then we'll come back to center. And then we'll do a little abdominal warm up here. So we're going to bring the right fingertips out in front of us, not putting a lot of weight or pressure in the right hand. And then we're going to bring the left toes back behind us. We're going to pull the belly button in towards the spine, and we're going to inhale and lift the right arm up alongside the right ear. And then we're going to lower the right hand and the left knee back down, and we'll switch sides. So this time we'll bring the left fingertips out in front of us. Right toes go back behind us. And then we'll inhale the left arm up alongside the left ear. We'll exhale, lower everything down. And we're going to do that one more time on each side. So the right fingertips come out in front of us, the left toes go back behind us. We're going to inhale, lift the right arm up alongside the right ear. Maybe this time you can bring your left foot just an inch or two off the mat. Maybe you can bring it all the way up to hip height. Really pulling the belly button in towards the spine, pressing the top of the right foot and the right shin into the mat to stabilize us. And we'll exhale, lower everything down, and we'll switch sides one last time. Left fingertips out in front, right toes back behind us, pressing up from that right wrist. We'll inhale the left arm up alongside the left ear. Maybe bring the right foot a couple inches off the mat. Maybe bring it all the way up to hip height. Just wherever your body's at this morning. And we'll exhale, we'll lower everything down to the mat. And then we're going to take a child's pose. So there's a couple options here. You can bring the knees and the shins together and lower the hips down over the thighs. Extend the arms out in front and lower the forehead down to the mat. So your second option, so go ahead and try each of these, see which one feels more comfortable in your body. Keep the big toes touching. Widen the knees the width of the mat. If you have a block or even a pillow, you could place it in between your arms. Stretch the arms out in front of you. Keep the elbows lifted. Your forehead can rest either on the mat or on your block or a pillow. Your tailbone is reaching towards your heels. Doesn't have to touch, it just needs to go in that direction. And we'll inhale, we'll come back up to our tabletop position. And then we're going to go ahead and lower our torso down onto the mat for our Sphinx pose. This is a great stretch for your abdominal muscles. So we have our elbows lined up underneath our shoulders. Hands are stretched out in front of us. Tops of the feet are on the mat. Pulling the tailbone towards the heel, so you don't want to crunch your low back. And lift the collarbone up towards the ceiling. Lift the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. Pressing the tops of the feet into the mat, keeping the legs engaged. And then we're going to come back up to our tabletop position. And we're going to go ahead and do a low lunge and some variations on that. So we're going to bring the left foot in between the hands at the top of the mat. We want to make sure the ankle is tracking just below the knee here. If you've got blocks or books, you can place them on either side of the foot here. Especially if it feels really uncomfortable for you to crunch all the way down here, I really recommend having something to kind of lift your torso up away from your knee a little bit more. So if you feel pretty stable here, see if you can bring your hands up to your bent knee. If you're feeling a little wobbly, pull your belly button in towards your spine and really press into the top of the right foot and the right shin. If you still feel wobbly, you can always come back down with hands on either side of the block. If you still feel pretty steady, you can bring your arms up alongside your ears. Maybe even take a little back bend here. Gliding the shoulder blades down the back. And then we'll come back down with the hands on the hips. We're going to lift the right arm up alongside the right ear and then fold over to the left any amount. This is a great stretch for your psoas, and this can also be really helpful if you're experiencing any menstrual cramping. And then we'll come back down with hands on either side of the foot, and then we're going to shift the hips back. Lift the left toes towards the ceiling for a hamstring stretch. So if your back of your thigh is really tight, feel free to bend your knee here. Left foot is flexed towards the ceiling. Make sure you're not allowing your right hip to just shimmy on over. Make sure your right knee is lined up underneath your right hip. And then we'll plant that left foot back down. We'll move the blocks out of the way just for a moment, and then we'll switch sides. Actually, we'll take a few rounds of cat-cow first, just in case you've got any tightness or gripping in your hips. So we'll inhale, lift the forehead and tailbone up. Exhale, pull the hips back. Pull the belly button back towards the spine. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, pull back. And one more time, inhale up. Exhale back. Then we'll bring the right foot in between the hands. Blocks on either side of the foot if you have them, or books, or stable boxes. So a couple different options. But you'll notice my right ankle is tracking just beneath my right knee, so make sure you've got that alignment in place. That actually helps to protect your knee. Make sure you're pressing the top of the left foot and the left shin into the mat. So again, if you feel pretty steady, maybe bring your hands up to your bent right knee. And if you still feel steady, you can sweep the arms up alongside the ears. Maybe take a little back bend here. Then we'll bring the hands down to the hips. We're going to sweep the left arm up alongside the left ear this time and fold over to the right any amount. Now we're stretching the psoas on the left side of the body. So again, this is really great if you have menstrual cramps. And we'll exhale and fold forward. We'll shift the hips back for our hamstring stretch on the right side. So right toes reaching towards the ceiling, making sure our left hip stays over our left knee. So you might have to move the right foot over a little bit to make that happen. And then we'll shift the weight forward once again. Move the blocks out of the way. We'll take a few rounds of cat-cow here. So we'll inhale the forehead and the tailbone up. Exhale, pull the belly button back towards the spine. And then we'll come back to center, and then we'll flip the legs around. And we're going to set up for bridge pose next, and a few poses on our backs. So we want the feet about a foot distance away from our sits bones. If you've got a block handy, have it close to you so you can grab it. You're going to lay back on your back. We're going to take the block, place it in between the thighs. We want to make sure our heels are lined up underneath our knees. And go ahead and actually lift your toes up just to help make sure that you have your feet lined up properly, because you're going to want most of the weight in your heels, not in your toes. We're going to place the arms alongside our body. We're going to inhale. And then on the next exhale, go ahead and lift your hips up towards the sky, squeezing the block in between your thighs. If you don't have a block, just imagine you do. Continue squeezing the thighs. You want more squeezing happening between the thighs than in your low back or your tailbone area. Exhale, lower down. So we're going to do some dynamic movement here where we're going to inhale, lift the hips up, and then exhale, drop the hips back down. We're going to do 3 rounds of that. So inhale, lift up. Exhale, pull down. Inhale, come up. Exhale, lower down. And one more time here. Inhale, lift up. Go ahead and lift the toes up off the mat. Making sure you're in your heels, and then exhale, lower back down. And then we're going to lift and hold 2 times. So feel free to really press your arms into the mat, pressing the palms into the mat. We'll inhale, lift the hips up. Lift the toes up off the mat, really sink into those heels. Squeezing the inner thighs together. Exhale, lower down. We'll do that one more time. We'll take a full breath laying down here. And then we'll inhale, lift the hips up. We'll exhale, lower everything back down. Then you can pull the block out from between your legs if you've got it. We're going to bring legs into the chest and rock from side to side. Kind of a mini massage on the low back area. And then we're going to bring ourselves back up to a seated position for our butterfly pose. So we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. If you've got some sofa cushions or some pillows, feel free to place those underneath your knees. I'm going to use my blocks since I have them close by. We'll inhale, sit up nice and tall here, and then exhale and fold over our feet. Hands outstretched in front of us, soles of the feet pressing in toward one another. So you might only be able to fold right here, and that's perfectly fine. You can give yourself a little foot massage if you'd like, or you can go a little bit deeper. So this is another great pose, especially if you're having any cramping, just kind of squeezes in a nice supportive manner um, in your uterine area. Or you can bring the hands out in front of you. Just allow your body to sink into this pose for a few moments. We'll inhale, we'll come back up to center. And then we'll go ahead and lay down for our Shavasana, which is our final pose, also known as the corpse pose. So we're going to lay down on our mats. And you've got a couple options here. If your low back is tight, you can actually place a bolster or a blanket underneath your knees. You might want a pillow to support your head. The goal is to get as comfortable as possible so that you can really sink into your mat and sink into the pose, allowing your practice to fully integrate. Another option, if your low back is really tense, is to keep your knees bent, place them the width of your mat, and then lean the knees in toward one another. So the bolster is kind of in the way right now, but your feet would be on the mat, not on a pillow. So a couple different options there for you to try to make yourself more comfortable. So I invite you to really sink into the pose. Allow your body to sink into the mat. Allow your mind to take a little break. See if you can just focus mostly on your breathing here. Maybe counting your breaths, 1 for the inhale, 2 for the exhale, 3 for the inhale, 4 for the exhale. Just continue doing that. When you lose track of where you are, just start back at 1 again. Goal is not necessarily to clear the mind completely. That's actually impossible. The goal is to just try to be as present in the moment as you can. And the mind will wander. So it's important to just recognize when that happens and then gently bring yourself back to the present moment. The breath is a great way to do that because it is so constant. I invite you to stay in this pose as long as you need to. And when you're ready to come out, go ahead and roll over to your right side. Then bring yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Feel free to keep your eyes closed, allowing that soft energy flowing within you. You can even bring your hands together at heart center in prayer position. The compassion, the love, and the light in me honors the compassion, the love, and the light in you. Thank you for practicing with me this morning. Namaste. I hope you found this practice nourishing for you this morning, and feel free to join me next Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye for now.